So a little while ago, I decided it was time for me to move out. What I did not anticipate, however, was the sheer amount of hurdles I would have to get over across the span of that month, which ended up being one of the longest and most stressful of my entire life. It all started one night when I was thinking, why does every day feel the same? Why does it feel like my life isn't going anywhere and that nothing's ever going to change that? And the thought suddenly popped into my head, what if I just left? And so one day after work, I went on my computer and literally just Googled the best places to live in my state. One area in particular sort of stood out to me, so I went to go see it in person. I took my best friend with me and we drove an hour and a half to visit this city. The driving was much more chaotic than I'm used to as a small town boy, but luckily we made it out okay. Anyway, after a day of fun, I decided that it seemed like a fine enough place to live, so next came step 2, finding an apartment there. After browsing apartment hunting websites for a few days, I narrowed down one that checked all my boxes, and it seemed pretty cheap. So I called and asked for a showing. A couple days later, I make the drive again, walk inside to the office, and nobody's there. So I start to head back to my car, thinking I'll try calling them or something, when an older man and a lady walk into the building. So I step aside and wait. I listen to their conversation and make a grave realization. That rhymed. The old man is complaining to the woman about cockroaches in his apartment. Wonderful. The woman apologizes and says she'll get someone to fix it right away, and the man leaves. I kid you not, she then turns to me and says, well, isn't that just a great way to start the tour? So she shows me around some different apartments. Despite a couple of red flags, honestly, overall it did seem like a pretty decent place compared to the other ones I saw, but then I discovered my next issue. One requirement to live there was to make at least double what your rent would be. And up until that point, I had only been working 3 days a week at my job, so I wasn't quite making enough. I told her this and she said I could also get a signed document from my employer saying what my wage would be once I found a better job here. Now, I work in retail, so my plan was just to transfer to a different store within the same company. So after the showing, I called the nearby store and their hiring manager agreed to meet me in person that very same day. And so I went there, a bit intimidated by the sheer size of the store compared to mine, but we both came to the realization that this lady didn't really have any full-time positions available, and I'd need a full-time position if I wanted to afford my rent. So that was awkward. I drove all the way back home completely stumped on what I should do next. Uncertainty was beginning to set in about the whole idea, and I wondered if this plan was really worth bothering with after all. But one day after work, completely on a whim, I decided to try calling a different store in that same area just to ask if they had any full-time positions available. It turns out they did. They really only had one, a manager position, which I really did not want, but I was confident I could get it, and it seemed like the easiest solution to my problem at the time, so I reluctantly wrote out a cover letter and applied anyway. They must have liked it, because next thing I know, I'm driving all the way back again for an interview. I got there super early, so I spent a good 15 minutes in the bathroom reading common interview questions because, to be honest, I had done zero preparation beforehand. And all of a sudden, it's time. And I go to meet the lady for the interview, who tells me that one of the other managers also wanted to join us for it. And of course, almost none of the questions they asked me were the ones I'd studied for just a few minutes ago in the bathroom, but I think I still managed to stumble my way through it okay. They told me I'd hear back from them in a few days to a week. Now my uncertainties are at an all-time high, but I decide it's better to move forward than waste time looking back. Yeah. Anyway, suddenly while walking around the mall literally just a few minutes later, I got a call. I got the job. So they sent me the document saying what my wage was gonna be so I could finally apply for that apartment. It turns out they knew a guy who knew a guy who knew me and that I am a very good worker. So that's probably why I heard back so fast. That or the death threat I sent to their personal addresses might have had an effect too, but we'll never know. Anyway, next thing I know, I got the apartment too. And now it's only a matter of time before I make the move. However, what I didn't realize at the time was that my work was just getting started, as now we enter the arc of me having to make
1,000,000 phone calls.
I have to find renter's insurance, car insurance, I have to call the electric provider, return my current internet and find new internet, I have to cancel my dentist appointment, schedule a new one, which I still haven't done, and a million other things as well, and a lot of those take a lot more than one simple phone call. I was emailing the insurance lady and the apartment lady back and forth for a week straight, making sure I had all the documentation I needed, and I needed a lot. And of course I had to pay for this new insurance through some backwater app that didn't even work, so I needed to be on call with them for 45 minutes while they try and fix it so I can fork over hundreds of dollars to them. I had a to-do list every single day for the next couple of weeks of things I needed to do, people I needed to contact, and on top of that, I still have to pack everything I own and shop for some other things I needed to survive. Now, thankfully, my wonderful parents bought a lot of the necessities for me, so I didn't have to spend too much money. Thanks, you guys. But is this joke getting old yet? Now we enter the climax of the story where all hell broke loose. My last day of work came. I finished the last of my chores, my packing, spent some time with friends and family before I left. Things were looking good. And moving day was finally here. It was a Monday. My car was loaded, and so was my parents'. With both vehicles, we would only have to take one trip. And of course, on this particular Monday, it was the first and only day at the time that winter decided to bear its fangs. It was cold, the roads were icy, and it was extremely windy. So I'm driving, right? I take the ramp onto the highway. Everything looks clear. I merge, and all of a sudden, my car loses control going 65 miles per hour. I hit black ice into a full 360 with my parents driving right behind me. They lose control as well, but luckily they managed to avoid hitting me. I pull off to the side of the road thinking, whoa, did that seriously just happen? I really didn't see any signs of ice on the road. Is this actually a good idea? Should we just go back for today? I called them and made sure everyone was okay, and we decided, somewhat reluctantly, to keep going, but very, very, very carefully. And I start driving again, super slowly, but it still feels like I'm sliding around some. As I said, it's insanely windy, so I had to keep recentering myself onto the road. Not to mention my windshield kept fogging up, but defrosting it made it so dang hot in that car, so I kept turning it on and off and on and off and on and off and on again. So here I am, white knuckle driving on what's normally like a 65 mile per hour road, now going around 30, just trying to stay on the road. Cars in the ditch everywhere I go. Unfortunately, because of how focused I was on not crashing, I ended up missing what turned out to be a super important phone call, and you'll see why in a minute. Because it was the landlady. She texts me saying to call her back. So I try calling back the number that had just called me, and it doesn't even go through somehow. I don't know what the heck happened, but it didn't go through. So now I have to multitask finding the apartment number in my phone, and even though it went through this time, she didn't answer. I try again, no luck. I try again like 10 minutes later, still no luck, and the driving conditions are not getting any better. I keep trying repeatedly after that, and it's only once we're like 50 minutes into the drive that I finally get an answer. And she tells me, my apartment's not even ready to move in yet. What? What do you mean? Today is my move-in day. I tell her, bro, Brachowski, my man, I've got all my stuff packed and loaded and I'm already on my way. She apologizes a bunch of times and says she has a locked room she can store my stuff in for the time being, which is definitely not shady at all. I ask when my apartment would be ready, and she said Friday, which is 4 days away. You're telling me I went through all this crap just now for nothing? Regardless, we finished the drive there, finally, and I signed my soul away on some papers, I don't even know what they said, get my apartment key, and me and my parents spend the next 30 to 40 minutes hauling everything into this tiny locked room. So, fast forward a bit. I pretty much just spent 3 days at home drawing, hanging out with some people for the last time, again, and alas, my real moving day finally arrived. again. Now, this time was a little bit different. The apartment lady wasn't going to be there at all that day because she was attending a funeral. And so, to make things easier, she gave me the maintenance guy's phone number and told me to call him once I got there. So, I have my emotional goodbye with my parents, and once I got out to my car, I tried calling him before I left just in case. No answer. Are you kidding me? I think YOLO. There's no way my luck is so bad that he won't even be there when I arrive, right? So for what I'm hoping is the last time I make the hour-and-a-half trip again, this time the weather was much better, actually. You know, I had like Christmas music and stuff playing, I was singing along, and I arrive at the apartment, and once again, I try giving him a call. No answer. I wait 20 minutes. I try again. No answer. I think, you know what? I don't care if the apartment is done or not. They gave me a key. I'm going in. And so I go up to find my room number, and the key they gave me doesn't even work. I literally go back to my car and Google search how to use a key to see if I'm somehow that stupid that I can't even get a door open. But no, the key definitely just does not work. I try calling the maintenance guy again. No answer, of course. I am so done at this point. I go to the mall nearby just to walk around for a bit and ask why in the world I did any of this to myself. I finally, like 30 minutes later, get a call back. It's the maintenance guy. He tells me he's there and he has another key for the apartment that should hopefully work, and also that he'll be able to unlock the room all my stuff is in. So I drive back to the apartment and give him a call to tell him I'm there. No answer. My annoyance is unfathomable. No mortal words can put into perspective just how close I was to crashing out and performing unspeakable actions to the entire apartment complex. But finally, I don't even know how much later, I get a hold of the guy and he tells me the room with my stuff and apartment were both unlocked and blah blah blah, I got a new key, whatever. And now comes the highlight of my day. And the sad part is I'm not really being sarcastic in saying that. Spending an hour and a half dragging a ton of very, very heavy things all the way from one building to another, up a flight of stairs and clear down the hall to my apartment for like 30 trips all by myself. That being said, an hour and a half and a gallon of sweat later, I could finally inflate my air mattress and wind down for what would be one of the worst nights emotionally in my entire life. Now I'm in some unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, unfamiliar noises, with a crap ton to unpack and a whole new, much harder life to adjust to, all on my own. Now from there, I'm going to fast forward a bit because the rest of the story all the way up until now in the present is pretty much all about me adjusting to this new life. Things slowly getting better, my new job getting easier, and me finding myself happier actually, after a while. The moral of the story, what I've gained from doing all this, is that I don't have to be afraid of being alive anymore. I don't have to be scared of adulthood. I've learned now that I actually can support myself and that everything will be okay, one way or another, probably. And that's the story of the first time I moved out. Thank you guys so much. I'm like done reading my script, whatever, goodbye script. Thank you for watching this video. It's very messy. It was like 6, 7, 8 months, I don't know how many months in the making, and the art style changes a bunch of times throughout it. I had a hard time, like, I don't even remember, this is like 6 months later that I'm voicing this, like, I don't know what happened, I'm just going off my script at this point. But if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe, you know, I might make more, you know, share with your friends, you know, whatever. But yeah, big thanks for watching, big thanks to all the people who animated little parts of my video for me. But I think I'm going to leave that video there. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. And, well, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.